I never want to be in a position where you can strip me of something like that. What? Take the shoes, take the dress, take the wealth.
Yeah.
The biggest asset is here. If I have my mind and if I have my ideas, if I have my peace, my integrity, I'm wealthy. And then it manifests in reality.
Welcome back to another episode of Women of TmrO. If you are new here, thanks so much for stopping and checking us out. Women of TmrO is a platform dedicated to women seeking success and longevity. So if you like what you see here, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Erica.
Yes. Hey there.
I'm so happy to have you here.
Girl, I am so blessed to be here. Literally.
That is
super exciting.
So awesome. And thank you for starting us off with prayer.
Of course. It's the only way to set the tone, you know?
Yeah. And that's just so wise of you, because I feel like for some years of my life, because of some things that, like feelings that I got in the church, where I grew up, I was just kind of put off by it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just kind of was like everything, like I stopped listening to gospel music. I stopped praying. And just in the last year or so, like, I'm like, nah, like no matter what I saw, the relationship with God is real. God is real.
Yeah.
There is, the presence is there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I feel like a lot of people that I meet experience like pain and just like agony and weird feelings from people that are in the church, and it just causes like a delay in your relationship with God. And I'm grateful that I kind of started off opposite, that I wasn't necessarily embedded in the church and a pastor's kid, but God was just there with me in a regular day. And then we kind of like grew together. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about it. Like, I have some questions and I'm ready. I'm going to get into them.
Okay.
But I am curious as to, without it being introduced through family or through like church, what was the first experience with God, or like what did you see or hear?
So technically I did go to church because my mom is a God-fearing woman. She was praying down. Like anything you needed, she would know of it before you needed it.
Wow.
In any pregnancy, she would know. So just growing up in that experience and seeing it secondhand, it was great to see her be a woman of faith and just her being so grounded in God. But I would say that because I wasn't like on the choir, I moved pretty often in my life from Brooklyn and born in California. So I didn't necessarily have like a church home for a while.
Okay.
And so that's why I said that it was really just me and God. And I think the encounter came from some of like the hardest moments in my life, and just realizing that through those hard moments and learning through them and learning the reason why it had to happen on my journey. Yeah. And the only way I could learn was by him speaking to me, speaking to me with kindness and with love as I healed through everything, and speaking to me with patience and gentleness, because otherwise I might have just done what I did in the beginning, which was suppress. I was like, child, I am not feeling this. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it. Yeah. But eventually, as I began to open and like soften my heart, he showed up, and he was able to be, we were able to be one and be present together. So I would say in those moments, it's like really when it just showed up, and I was like, hey, all right, you can come sit with me, because I'm going to tell the truth now. Before I was lying. I was okay. Ready. I was acting like I was okay anyways.
Wow.
So,
like I want to dig into the whole suppression thing, but starting off, I want to know, where are you from? You were saying New York, California. Like, where are you from?
So I tell people that I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Okay. Brooklyn all day. But I was born in Inglewood, California. I resonate with Brooklyn because I grew up there. But I've also lived in Maryland. I've lived in South Carolina. I've lived in Utah for a few. But I will say that Brooklyn definitely gave me my roots.
Okay. Yeah.
And California is like the rose that continues to bloom as I go back and visit and just like think about how I grew up. I'm like, oh, like I'm always going to be a Cali girl, but I'm a Brooklyn rose.
You give me Cali girl.
It's crazy.
At the heart.
It's, people say I'm a Southern belle. It's just, I love it all. I feel like I welcome all of it, honestly.
You're a chameleon. Yeah, you're a chameleon in that sense. So you grew up, you moved around growing up, or was this more like in your adult years when you were growing up?
Growing up, so I was born in California, in Inglewood. I lived there until I was about maybe like 5 or 6 years old. Moved to Brooklyn and lived there for a couple of years, and then eventually went to like middle school in South Carolina. I went to college in Maryland. Shout out to Morgan State. Shout out to all the HBCUs.
Yes.
And then like eventually moved a couple other places. So that's kind of how it was like a gradual. People go to college and you move.
Yeah.
People in my family pursue different careers and moved. So that was kind of how it happened.
You have lots of love for college. Tell me, like, because I dropped out, and I just was never a school person.
I feel you.
I just was never. I think by that time I started to just be very rebellious of anything that my parents or my sister was doing. I'm just like, I'm different. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not doing anything. But so many people have so much value that comes from their college experience outside of just the education, but just like the community, the friendships, the things like that. What is something that you love about like your college experience, or just like, during that time?
Where do I start? I think the college experience, specifically choosing to go to an HBCU, was super monumental because prior to, unfortunately, growing up in different neighborhoods full of poverty, I just didn't see like people of color doing amazing things at reach. I knew my family was bomb. I knew my mother was an outstanding speaker, but there were things that I would see like in the community that just kind of turned me off. So I was gonna go to like a PWI, and then 3 days before college started at Morgan, I had been accepted since my junior year. I had visited the college, and I was like, I just want to go. And I told my mom, and they were like, what? And we drove down the next day.
Wow.
And so getting to Morgan, it kind of chose me, but it also opened me to see how beautiful the diaspora is and how beautiful and brilliant we are despite our circumstances, whether you grew up in a 2-family home and your family was wealthy, or you grew up in a 1-family home or in Brooklyn, New York. Regardless, it was so beautiful to see everyone come and bring them. And just be authentic. Their hair was authentic. Their language was authentic. The slang. I have so many slangs in my like vernacular. I'm like, I can use any of them. But I say that to say that it just taught me to love being African American, to love being a part of a community of people of color. And then also, as I grew into Morgan State, serving as Miss Morgan State University. So all HBCUs, if you're not familiar, have queens and kings.
Yes.
That was one of the best opportunities ever for my leadership, because it showed me my voice as a leader. It showed me the things that I can improve on. It showed me the things that I'm passionate about, which is like connecting dots. And I think overall the college, it could have been any school. Honestly, it could have been any environment. I never want to deter people who did not go to college or who dropped out, because honestly, the gift is always in you. Like the gift of leadership was in me. The gift of wisdom was in me. It just took that environment to bring it out. But I'd never deter anyone else's journey like for that. But I will say that like in those 4 years, it was rigorous. And I was learning a lot in a short amount of time, and also experiencing loss. I was experiencing shedding myself, growing into an adult, all on this one campus where I'm also trying to figure out what I want to do in life. So if you could imagine, it was just an incubator of just like growth,
I like that word,
and constructive criticism and facing reality. Like
everyone doesn't look at it like that, and everyone doesn't, I guess, because if they don't look at it like that, they're not able to really absorb everything that is there for them. And you were able to do that.
In the moment, I didn't. I was, like we talked about earlier, suppressing a lot of things just to kind of like get through. But as I reflected afterwards, I was like, that's why that had to happen. Or that's why, your heart was hardened and then you learned how to forgive people and you chose to do that. Like, that is why you can sit in the mirror and love who you are today, because you reflect on those moments and take the lesson from it and take like the growth from it. And I think that's the biggest thing in like, just being in that environment.
It's the lessons that you're able to learn. So what are you doing now? Tell me what you're doing. I saw in your bio, are you in public relations? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, what do you do?
So I work in public relations and social impact at BET Media Group. So that basically, long story short, is a lot of executive positioning for our executives and telling their stories along with the entire BET story. And then also social impact campaigns for the things that disproportionately impact Black people, like mental health awareness. We have a really dope campaign with Taraji P. Henson's foundation to give away free mental health services, whether it's like yoga or a barbershop talk or actual like therapy. So that's what I do. I work at the intersection of those two things. And then I also have the unique honor to work on our award shows and hire teams of emerging publicists and media professionals to work our red carpets.
Wow.
So my job is like all the pieces of me ultimately.
Yeah. Wow.
Now. So that's what
incredible.
I do for my 9 to 5. And then the rest of my world, I do things like this. And
So how did you get that role? That sounds like a significant role. And like, what did you do to get yourself there?
Whew. What did God do? Because honestly, I'm like, how did we end up here?
Faith without works.
It's dead. Exactly.
So you definitely did some things to position yourself to get there.
For sure. In those moments, like after graduating, I was in like survival mode. Ultimately, it was the pandemic. And I was like, what is this? Like, who am I? And what is this? And who are y'all?
Yeah. Because you were in New York. And I hear people always talk about the pandemic in New York was insane.
It was zombie land. So to come home to a city that I thought I was about to conquer and I just graduated.
Sex in the City. It was
not giving. It was giving blank. It was giving like mummies in the city. No one's here. It doesn't exist. Like it was so different. Everything just felt weird and scary. But I actually forgot your question.
I was basically asking, what is it how'd you get this role? Like, how did you get this prominent role?
So I started interning at a couple of places. I was working at a nonprofit. I was working at a global transformation company based in Switzerland, and then working at Columbia University, where I was starting my master's program in their career department services. Those were 3 STEMs that I decided to take at the same time. And then my sister's friend just found a position, and I kind of like found the position as well as an intern at BET in the social impact department. And I knew that I was so passionate about social impact, and so I decided to take that route and go on a win and just take that internship. And of course, I think it was humbling in hindsight because I was like, I'm getting my master's. Like, what am I doing interning with y'all?
I was going to ask you, what did it take to be an intern at that stage in your life? Or just any, because I feel like some people don't see the value in doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
It's like volunteering.
I mean, it was paid because the bills. But it was definitely humbling in mindset, because you think that when you graduate or when you do anything after college or after that next level, you envision what your next step will be like. And I wanted the full-time job. I wanted to be a PR girly in the city, grinding with my favorite nonprofit foundation owner who was running things. And ultimately, my life looked like splitting my time between a master's degree and 2 jobs, and then stumbling upon that internship. And I was like, it's either I take this leap of faith and trust that my gifts will make room for me, or I remain where I am and keep on struggling and striving and working super hard in hopes of getting things. And I think in that moment, the biggest thing that I learned is that on the walk with God, sometimes you don't have to strive. I think we talk about hustling and glorify hustling, and I don't honestly believe in that anymore. One thing about me, ambition is sexy. I am always going to show up ambitious and with work ethic, but striving and forcing your hand at something that was already predestined will always make you feel like you're literally on a hamster wheel. I think stepping into the internship was like a wake-up call. It humbled me, but it also showed me that you could be an intern and still people would still see your light in a way that you don't even see it. You could still outlive the role, the title, the position.
Because we are not roles.
Who said that we are?
Break this down for me. Break down the striving thing, though. Help people understand the difference between, I guess, putting in work, like being ambitious and following that versus forcing and striving? Like, what is that thin line when it's just like, okay, now you're forcing it?
Yeah. You know, I think the biggest thing is that I was experiencing so much burnout from my own hands. I was just trying so hard to figure things out without inviting God into it.
Okay.
I was like, I don't understand like what I need to do to make it happen, and so I'm going to try all of them. But I think the more that you take a step back and reflect and actually say, what are the things that I want and I'm seeking? And then check your intentions on why you're seeking that. Are you seeking that job or that position because you feel like it'll validate you, or because it's lit, or because you really want to make an impact?
Yeah.
And so in those moments, like, you have to realize that the strive is when you are forcing your hand at things. You are not moving with integrity at all times. You are not honoring yourself. You are not honoring your morals sometimes, your values, and your peace of mind. Striding more so is saying, I'm going to, one, do the work, but I'm always going to keep my mental health at the forefront, because if I am nothing to myself, I can be nothing for my journey and nothing to anyone. But also understanding that if I'm going to say what's for me is for me, then I have to believe that if I'm not in that room, if I'm the intern, if I'm the lowest person on the totem pole according to the world, that my gift will still show up, that my light will still be recognized by somebody. And I think that's something that you're not taught in corporate America. That's something that I bring, and I'm like on the red carpet.
That's the
like,
magic.
It's okay. Like, y'all be starstruck, but also know that you could create a legacy as well.
Yeah.
Also know that there's a light in you. Like, also know that the people that we look up to and admire are amazing because someone invested in them, they invested in themselves, but it doesn't mean you can't do the same thing. You know?
Yeah.
That was a mouthful, but all in all.
Not looking at celebrities as something outside of ourselves. Like, we all are
that
stars.
Too.
And being able to see in them what's in us.
Yeah, and also understanding that, like, what's for you is for you, and that it will never miss you, and that whether you feel like you missed an event or you missed an opportunity to work at a specific company, or you dropped out per se, that I will still get what is rightfully mine in this world. I will still make an impact in the way that it was already destined, and trusting that so I can sleep at night while I'm taking rest instead of forcing my hand and being out in the streets trying to mingle and make something happen, when in reality, like, my mental health is on the line, you know? Taking a step back, like, what does it work? What do I lose?
Once that physical health and mental health, once it's like, once it stops,
we're done.
You're done.
We're done.
You're done. Like, you can't do anything about it. So it definitely needs to be at the forefront. And I was talking to my friend before about just survival mode.
Yeah.
Learning, yes, there are moments in life where we have to survive.
Yeah, you have to grind it out.
You have to grind it out. But then also recognizing, like, when that's over, oh, okay, like, I'm not there anymore.
I'm stepping into a new season.
Yeah.
Like, who is she?
And often we still stay in survival mode, and then we start missing the season that we're in. We start fumbling the season that we're in.
Oh my God.
By being in that, still being in that survival mode. So it's just like, it does take a lot of faith. It does take risk. It takes so much risk, because I think our ego is trained. It's trained to protect us from something that's already bad happened.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so it doesn't want us to necessarily leap. Our ego wants to protect us, but we do have to constantly leap. Yeah. Leap out of that comfort zone, leap out of that fear, that survival mode.
Yeah. I think that comes with a lot of reflection.
Yes.
Like getting out of survival mode.
Sit down.
Literally, get off the gram and sit down and check in with yourself, because like you said, you'll be operating in a season of abundance, full of everything that you need, and miss it. You'll be self-sabotaging. You'll have the team of your dreams. You'll have the people there that are supporting you, your community. You'll have the access, someone ready to fund you. But because you're so used to surviving, you will self-sabotage all of those things by thinking you don't deserve it, by thinking you're not ready, because you didn't check in with yourself.
You didn't take that time to check in.
Like, we deserve a check-in. As much as we check in with people on the Shade Room, on Instagram,
we're always
on our friends,
checking in on others and not checking in on ourselves. And it's like, thinking about like Christmas. Oh, Santa, I want all these gifts. And then Christmas Day, you're out. Like,
exactly.
sit down in front of the tree. You got all these gifts.
Like, you have all these gifts. That is so good to me.
That's
so good to me
because like sit down and receive.
Yeah.
You have to. You do have to sit down and receive. And I think
and recognize. Like, in gratitude. I think it's almost just it's like ignorant to just have all these gifts. Or I think about that, like when you mentioned gifts, I thought about like the gifts that we carry, like the gift of connecting people or the gift of just speaking, like all of those things that we oftentimes say we're not ready. Like, I'm not ready for the opportunity. I'm not ready for the opportunity because we feel like we don't have them. But really, you have 3 gifts that are sitting dormant and you're waiting for 6 more. While those 3 begin to dwindle or lose value or get rusty. That burdens my heart.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced that in myself before. And when I had that moment where I checked myself and I sat down and I just checked in, I was like, oh,
you actually
I have everything I need. Wow. Like, if there was anything else more that I would have, I wouldn't be able to even handle the things that I have now.
Wow.
So why not hone in on those things and show up as me today with what I have, and then see what I'm able to carry after I've released what's in my hands. Like,
I love that.
It'd be really, see that's my thorn.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
A rose and a thorn, that's my thorn.
So did something happen in your life where you were sat down, where you were able to learn this lesson of learning how to check in and sit down and reflect and receive and recognize all those things?
Several times.
Okay. I want to know about like the moments when or something, a moment when you got sat down, because I think that is what we're all going through.
Yeah.
And we're not always recognizing that, okay, you're being sat down. Life is not, there's a quote that I love, and it says, life is not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yeah.
And there is lessons every single day that we can take advantage of if we're willing to look at it like that. So I think that all these things that are happening, it's like we ask God, we ask the universe for these things, and it shows up, and we're over here like, It's like, girl, that was it, but it didn't look like what you thought it was going to. It looked like a lesson that you needed to learn, and then it was going to be on the other side.
Exactly.
So tell me about like one of those lessons.
There are so many. I think the one that was most poignant in my life, in terms of just like really being sat down and having to analyze my identity overall, was just normal, simple. I was doing my master's program at Columbia, and I think the HBCU to Ivy League pipeline when you're graduating is so glorified that I was like, oh, I'm about to go to an Ivy League. The price is up. The price is right. Like, yesterday's price is not today's price. I was really feeling that vibe, and everything was going right. And I was like having the funds to pay for it. And I was actually learning and enjoying. And I think in that moment I had attached my identity to it. And so God was like, sit down. And I was like, oh, because everything was going right. Yeah. Everything looked to be the perfect life that I had envisioned myself. Yeah. And I think that if I didn't have that sit down, I wouldn't have the abundance that is blowing my mind right now, like moments like this. If I would have just stuck on that path of just going to school and doing things right and being a perfect student, as opposed to just being the best me. And in that moment of sitting down, it stripped me of a lot. It stripped me of the identity that I thought I had. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm currently at a stage in life, even reflecting on that, where I no longer want to worry about what I'm identified as. I think we focus so much on the title and so much on the wealth or whatever it is that we're chasing, that we don't truly give ourselves the fact of the space to be a person that is curious, a person that is adventurous. I am a woman that loves connecting people to themselves. I am a woman that loves to make people feel loved. I'm a woman that loves to bring people something that they never knew they could have. Why would I not describe myself in that way? Why would I limit myself to those small dreams in comparison to God? When I could be living in the full abundance of who I am. And I think in sitting down, though it stripped me of my identity in a way that I was hurt, child, I was tired, I was over it. I was like, I was in my prime. And y'all messing this up for me. But I have to say that in that moment, it helped me to realize that I'm so much more than anything the world will attach to me. And I'm also so much more than what the world can perceive. And when you give yourself the space to just learn who you are and unravel those layers that no one can understand but you and perhaps God, that is when you tap into that like mogul. That is why I call myself EK The Mogul, because in my darkness, I had to see myself in such a way that was so different in comparison to where I was in that level of life. I, in that moment, felt so low and so worthless and so just doubting every thought that came to my mind. Why? I am a speaker. I know that I got a couple things to say because life be doing this thing and I be learning from it. But why would I see myself in that way? Because I attached myself and my identity to things that were fragile. When you attach your identity to one, God, who is guiding you, and also your purpose and your layers and your truth, there is nothing that can stop you on that journey, like, you know, and that is what I kind of learned from that moment, that it'll strip you of all these things that are fragile. They're tangible.
To show you.
I never want to be in a position where you can strip me of something like that. What? Take the shoes, take the dress, take the wealth. The biggest asset is here. If I have my mind and if I have my ideas, if I have my peace, my integrity, I'm wealthy.
I love that.
And then
so
it manifests in reality.
You know? That's when it goes pew. It's like
please.
It's like you further than you.
I can't even stop.
Right.
Like, I'm telling you, none of y'all could even get in the way. And I'm not saying it in a cocky way. I'm just saying because I can't even get in my way because I've accepted my fate and who I am.
I love the way you broke that down.
Please.
Because some people might, you know, and we're going to clip this up to be inspirational, but some people might see the clip and, you know, might even be intimidated. But you're speaking to us all. You're speaking to this is the experience. This is the life experience that is available to us all.
Girl, the reason I was speaking with someone today about what is the biggest thing that I want to leave with people here, and not to deviate from your question, it just came up, but I realized that I want people to tap into the mogul in them. But I think we have this mogul on such a pedestal that we don't realize that the mogul is just you at your rawest form, committed to being you. Committed to being you in the face of opportunities that look amazing but could be your demise. Committed to being you in a space that might tell you to shrink but you decide to show up anyways. Like, that is the mogul. We see the Issa Rays and we don't think about the process that it took to get there. That is the mogul. That mogul that withstood the test of time. That said that I don't care if y'all don't see my vision. I see the vision. And I'm gonna hold on to this vision because that's all I have. That is the mogul. The mogul after effect is what we see, but the mogul who was developed and who decided to say, I'm in this for the long run with myself. We do that in a marriage and we do that till death do us part, but will you say till death do us part to yourself?
To yourself.
Like, it's me and me forever. So whether you are in an abusive relationship, whether you are self-doubting, whether you are self-loathing, abusing substances, whatever the case may be, it is me and me until the end. And so whatever it is it takes for me to get her out of that state of maybe not her highest state and to bring her to that mogul, I'm going to do it. But we bet on everybody else instead of ourselves in that moment. And like, that to me is something that I also had to hone in on, that it was never about the limelight. It was never about the things that seem big. It was always about whether you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you gave yourself everything that you might have given your friends or you might have believed in someone else. Like, those are the moments that are the biggest to me, and that is what I wanted to leave, because it is you as you are, not when you make it. the person that got you to this point. We were talking about survival, and I think I saw this quote about like the person, I saw this quote about the person that, you know, like, forget about the person that you were, step into the person that you are. I said, to hell if I would forget about her, because she got me here.
Yeah. Oh,
I have to give her some type of love and
acknowledge
appreciation
her
for what she did with what she had, because that will still show up in the abundance. My ability to think on my feet is because she tried. My ability to think and make nothing out of something in those moments. You got the wealthy business and you have everything you need, but there's those moments where life will be like, you don't.
Exactly.
Somebody will fumble
and
a
then
bag,
what do
and you will have to intercept and bring it home.
Yeah.
And in those moments, you can look back at the girl or the man that, you know, survived, and always pay homage to her. And I think, like, even that is a moment to just, you know.
Yeah, relationship to self.
Yes.
Ooh, now that is just like such a, I mean, it's something that I have, it's been dear to me my whole life, just like navigating what that looks like.
Yeah.
'Cause it's deep.
It
is the
is.
deepest thing that we will ever experience.
Right.
Because we're so used to, advocating for others.
Right.
We're so used to making sure that we show others love and not being selfish and things like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I started to do recently is just when I listen to love songs, I think of myself.
Oh, girl.
I think of myself. But
mind-blowing.
The first time
that
it was scary to do because I'm like, this is so weird.
I am going crazy.
I was just like, this
Who
is
am
so
I?
weird. Like, no, I don't want to think about myself. Like, ugh. But I had to force myself to think about myself. And one of the first times that I did it, I was like driving and I like almost wrecked. I was crying so
Jesus,
hard.
take the wheel.
Yeah.
Somebody take the wheel.
I was crying so
Yes.
hard because I just showed me that you haven't been loving yourself the way you give other people love. The way that you, it's deep. It's just really deep.
It is beautiful.
Yeah,
in a way that it's not pretty, but beautiful.
Yeah, it's
like,
not pretty,
oh,
but it's beautiful.
I took the time out for me. How sweet.
Yeah.
Like everything that you want someone to be to you.
Yeah.
Like giving yourself that. I'm going to steal that.
You got to try it.
What's my first love song that I need to sing to myself? I'm like,
I feel like you got to go. You're going to have to go back because right now it's not a lot of love songs that are like really out. I'm like, okay.
It's not, I'm going to start with your mama it's not SZA. It's.
I feel like it's not SZA. No shade to SZA because we love
No. I'm going to listen to them down. But like,
what was the song that honestly it was the Jhené Aoki song that I was listening to. What was the song?
She loves on herself down.
The song was I think it was New Balance.
Okay.
There's a song called New Balance, and basically it talks about she's talking about someone that she's met and fallen in love with, and that it was just a new fresh what do they call it?
Like a fresh fire, fresh feeling?
No. What is it called? Breath of fresh air.
Breath of fresh air.
Oh, God. Yes, that's what it was. That's what she was kind of describing it as. And she's like, it's like, this is the love that I waited for, and it's everything that I ever wanted.
Oh, my God.
And so I'm like, okay, in this moment,
wow.
Like, we never can put our finger on another person. We never can control them. We never know what's going to happen.
Say that again.
You never. One person that we can, call upon if we learn to nurture that is ourselves. And
every time.
When I tell you, it felt almost, and that's how I know how deep it is. It felt almost painful to think about myself versus someone else, because I had never done it. It's like, wow, no, Kayla, you are the person that I've been waiting for. This is the love that I've been waiting for. So it's you got to try it. You got to try it.
Shaking.
You got to try it.
And externally right now. That is so beautiful. I can only imagine just like when you give yourself your flowers.
Yeah.
Like, girl.
That's what it really is. And in those,
I love you.
In those moments.
You my girl.
Surrender.
Yes.
Okay, yes, in one of your recent posts, I saw that
the
you
last
were
one.
speaking. Okay, yeah, was it the very last one?
Yes,
You were speaking on surrender, and surrender is a big thing in my life now. Tell me what that means to you. Like, what is surrender for you in your life, and how has it changed your life, or how is it impacting you right now?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because before I made the video, I didn't have a title. So I didn't put surrender. I just said, and then it took me like a week to figure it out. I was like, it's just untitled. I'm not titling this. And then I was like, in untitling it, I'm giving myself the opportunity to surrender to the process, to surrender to whatever it is that is happening that I can't quantify. I'm so used to quantifying my growth so that I can explain it to someone, like, hey, I healed from this, and that person I apologized to, and that person I forgave. But in this season, I'm like, I feel it. I feel the shift in my spirit and how I feel about myself, how I treat others. I just can't necessarily like put my finger on it. But for once, I don't want to. I just want it to occur. And I want to show up as me and just give her the space to do so. I don't even know what you called that, but I just called it surrender, because I was like, you got it. like nothing profound. I was like, you got it. But I think what I wanted to do was just trust that I would lead myself and that God would lead me to the perfect place in my journey. And eventually, if I didn't understand it now, that I would later. Like holding on to that fact. Because honestly, almost always I don't understand it now. But lately, I've been understanding it so much in the current moment. I'm like,
the way you're, so right now you're like, you're like, there's a different thing, but energetically versus intellectually. It's like, I just feel it. I can't explain it. And I'm just going to go with the feeling. And and I think sometimes that does require some isolation, some solitude, because everyone wants to understand, either to judge or to help or to support. And sometimes it's like, no, just let me, I don't even know what's going on, but I'm just in it. And I've surrendered to the journey and where it's taken me.
Sometimes it is just you, and like, it's just you and God. Or it's like, sometimes it's just you in the mirror, like just kind of holding a mirror to yourself and just deciding to allow whatever is to come. I think I just wanted to allow it to happen. And I also think that a lot of us, especially creatives, or those who were more logical and then transferred to being a creative, I am that. I grew up very logical, a student of the game. If you told me how to do it, I would do it precisely. I grew up singing classical music. You told me what note to hit, I hit it. Yes, girl. And so recently I went to the studio this past weekend randomly with my friend, and my friend was like, come on, go sing. I said, sing? What? And about what? And with who? And then I was like, why do I have so many questions for myself? I'm like, I'm just going to trust that something great is going to come out. And I ended up singing something and freestyling something that was actually fire.
Really?
Imagine 7 years of trying to quantify my growth and quantify my musical skill. And then one day in the studio just being like, free. Allow myself to trust my process, experience the process, not even say anything about it. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just do like,
yes, vocals.
And then something else. I might put on a show. But then and then something so beautiful coming of it. So that's kind of how I see, that season of surrender. It's like getting in the
season of surrender.
Oh, it has been a season of surrender for months for me now. Like, if you saw that on my Instagram, and there was like one where I said like, this is a season of separation before elevation, because I had to quantify like what it was, because I felt so lonely. I was like, damn, like I don't have a desire to go out with y'all, but I do want to be with my friends.
Yes.
But I know that we just can't really mesh right now, because I'm growing through something that no one can really understand.
Oh, okay.
What do I do?
I need to, I want to sit right here for just a second, because you are speaking to me, because you're saying that feeling like feeling isolated, feeling like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe is it our interests aren't quite the same,
Yeah.
like our thought or process is not quite the same. I love you, I want community, I want to be with
Right.
you, but at the same time, sometimes when I'm around you, I feel like I am, what is the word? Is it regress? I feel like I'm kind of
Yes.
like
Yeah.
not
Like
moving on my path.
Exactly. Oh my God. That's so big.
That's big. And so, dang. And so has that been scary or for you in
Yeah.
that process? Have you been able to talk to your friends about that? Or is it something that you just like, this is for me to work on and figure out? Are they upset or like?
Yeah, those are great questions. When I think that was a couple of months ago when I took a solo trip to Miami, and I was just like, I just want to move on my own accord. I've been feeling that vibe. I like how I feel about myself. And then I kind of wanted to get to the root, and I was like, oh, but it's kind of like weird. So I feel like in that moment, I didn't tell my friends what it was because I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
I just knew that I was like, I just don't quite fit into the scope of what we're used to, but I don't know what I want now. And I just allowed myself the opportunity to just not know what I wanted next. I was like, I know I don't want that. And sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah,
It's
know
just
what
like,
you don't want.
I know what I don't want. I don't want to partake in these activities. This is no longer serving me.
love
This
that.
doesn't make me feel comfortable. This makes me feel like I'm shrinking. I don't know what the opposite looks like yet, but
And maybe there's not
I'm
the
gonna get to
opposite
know.
because it's not linear. It's just like all
Exactly.
around. So
That's
you
so
just have a
good.
little nugget here, and then you could be 2 centimeters next to it.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's the spot.
That's the spot.
Yeah. But in talking to them was fairly different because it depends on what like stage of friendship I was in with each person.
Yeah.
Like there were some people that I just didn't bother to explain. I was just like coming out less
Okay.
and being around less.
Okay.
But there were some people who I knew cared about me more than anything, and they didn't care about what I was able to offer to them. They
Yeah.
were just like, you are my friend because I love you, not what you can give me. And I felt comfortable saying like, hey girl, I might not call you as much. I still love you.
Yeah.
I am just growing through something that I need to sit in and be like really present for.
Yeah.
So if I'm not calling you, don't take it personal.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not showing up to certain places, I want to let you know now. Because there were seasons where I feel like you show up for your friends all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's some where you're just more so present with self. And that's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Like, so that was, it depended on the person, like
Got it.
the level of like
Explain it. You
uncomfortability
felt like
and difficulty. I was like,
yeah.
like, I ain't really
Okay.
gonna say too
no,
much
that's
today.
fair enough. That's
But
totally
yeah.
fair enough. One more thing about surrender that I wrote down that I wanted to ask. I feel like sometimes surrender can feel like or can be thought of as not being active, not doing anything. And maybe that's a good thing, right? Like maybe there is days where you're like, I'm taking the whole day off. I'm taking the whole weekend off. I'm not making a decision other than to just be here and
Yeah.
flow with whatever I feel. Do you feel like surrender has ever, and now you've kind of evolved in being able to surrender fully, but in the past, has surrender ever felt like it's going to, I'm relinquishing my freedom of choice on what I want to do? I say that because I listened to Zen. She's like an energy healer, and she talks about our choices and how sometimes we're like, oh, that's just how I am. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Or I felt like doing this, so I did it. And sometimes we're sabotaging ourselves because we're not elevated enough to make the best choices for ourselves. And so when surrender comes along, it's like, okay, does surrender mean I'm surrendering my freedom of choice to do this or that?
Yeah, that's a really great question because I think initially when I thought of surrender, I did feel like I was out of control. Like I felt like, why would I relinquish control when I don't know what the final thing will be?
Yeah.
But I think in the midst of that, I wanted myself to be able to trust in something bigger than I could see or bigger than I could quantify or see the next step. because personally, one of my favorite scriptures is Ephesians 3:20. And it says, and I think it's a universal scripture as well for anyone's faith, that my God, I know my God, but like God will do more than you could ask, think, or imagine. When will you give him the time to do that? If you are trying to control everything, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's a bad thing that you are making intentional choices. I more so think that it's about taking a step back and just allowing what is to be. Because, like, sometimes I think it is like beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
Like when you're like trying to figure something out and you can't really quite get it, like there's power in saying like, you know what? Let me see what happens if I take my hand off of it.
Yeah.
Because I've tried 13 ways.
Exactly.
Like, at this point, I'm out of ways.
The point where like,
I've
I don't
lifted
know.
up every stone, flipped them over. I can't find the outfit, quote unquote, you know?
Yeah.
And
But I clearly
it's
don't
like,
have the answers.
Like, no, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It becomes a point of humility because I'm like, I thought I was running this.
Yeah.
But
running
I think,
into the ground. Basically.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
But I
that's when you
think
get those
sometimes it
moments.
is important. I'm still also learning that duality of taking intentional steps towards what you want and then knowing when to say, hold on. This is bigger than me.
Yeah.
What someone is orchestrating right now would not really compare to what's to come. And I don't want to get in the way of what's to come.
Yeah.
Because of my mind and how my goals are set up. You know, like we have goals and we have plans, but they're based on our experience, what we see, and our ceiling.
Yes.
Even if we break this glass ceiling, we put another one.
Yeah.
And then we break that. Like,
Yeah.
what does it look like for you to not have any and then to explore a new sky, a new moon?
Yeah.
You know, figuratively. What does that look like until you surrender and like allow that? But I think it's definitely the ebb and flow of making intentional decisions and then being like, we're out of them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out of it.
Yeah, that is a little exercise to practice. Yeah, I like that. I think we kind of talked about this though, experiencing versus explaining, because that's something else.
Oh my gosh,
that's something else that I saw that you touched on that I love.
You know, your level of intention, because I post for that.
Okay,
like I post in hopes that we would continue the conversation.
Yeah,
I love that. Thank you for seeing me.
Absolutely,
Truly.
I'm like, because it takes a lot to explain when you're in your own journey of just figuring it out. And that, I think that's a part of where sometimes the limitations can be multiplied, because in the moment that it's actually being birthed, you're trying to get someone else to understand. So
like,
you're trying to wrap it up
and package it
for someone,
for your appeasal,
for someone to understand. And at the same time, you're
Please.
limiting it.
Yes. That's been aggravating lately.
Yeah.
Seeing that happen, because I've experienced it. And now that I see that, like, you don't necessarily have to, I think it does limit you. And I think it also limits what the vision could be.
Yeah.
There was this quote that I saw on Instagram, like, you keep on trying to grow this garden, but every time a flower grows, you pull it from the ground and you give it to somebody to show them that you're growing a garden.
Yeah.
Grow the garden, and if they don't see that seed grew, you know, though.
Yeah.
You see the little stem, you see the thing sprouting, and I think sometimes like that is enough.
Yeah.
And also, everybody didn't get the vision. If you were supposed to be a part of the vision, you would be front and center in my life.
Absolutely.
At this moment. There are moments where I have friends that I speak to every single day, and then we don't speak for months. But when we speak every day,
They get it.
It's because we are in such alignment that we're supposed to be on each other's journey for that moment to support bringing this thing to life. But otherwise, it's like I'm wasting my time. I gotta get in the dirt with this thing. Like, I got to understand it before I can really package it for y'all. The package is so small then. It's
and holding that
premature.
space for yourself to say, hey, I don't have the answers for you guys.
You don't have the answers, Sway.
Exactly.
Like, we don't.
Yeah.
You don't. And neither do I yet. But until I get it, let me figure it out.
I mean, this is all creation, right? Like, we've named it business. We've named it PR, we've named it so many things,
Yeah.
but it's creation. Like we're all creating something for it to be interpreted as art, however it's meant to. So I think, we all have to be intentional. We all have to focus on our gut, getting familiar with your gut, getting familiar with your intuition, so that, because it's going to be the North Star for you, but the more you avoid trusting it, because it's like, for me, like with intuition, it's like, oh, I don't want to mess up. When you make a decision based off your intuition, then whatever happens, you can learn, oh, okay, I felt this way and it turned out this way. Let me do it a different next time. But you're at the same time getting to know yourself more, and also being able to rely on yourself versus others who don't have your vision.
Yeah.
They have their own life, and so we need that intuition.
I love that perspective, and even that exercise of like taking a step and then learning from the step and then assessing what made you make that decision.
Yeah.
I think because when you do have to explain it to someone, or when you try to prove it, it does silence your voice.
Yeah.
And it continues to silence your voice more and more, so that when more things on a bigger scale come that you have to make a decision about, you'd be so distraught and seeking validation because you kept on silencing it.
You kept on silencing yourself. And something, it does that something to your psyche of like,
girl,
you don't trust yourself. We ain't asking you.
We ain't got nothing valuable to add here. Like, who said that? You.
Yeah.
Your patterns built that belief over time.
Yes. Even though you're not saying, I don't trust you, Kayla. If you aren't if you're not following your own gut, if you don't think that it's important enough, if someone told you you don't make good decisions, at some point you have to turn it around and say, okay, well, maybe I didn't make good decisions, but now I'm about to teach myself how to make good decisions by trusting myself.
Exactly.
And going for that and failing when I need to. But I'd rather fail off my decisions versus someone else's. And then just say, well, I did the best I could.
And that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Like, I think even in terms of like leadership or learning how to steward something, learning how to steward it, how you steward it, is often the best thing.
Yeah.
Because people won't be around all the time.
Yeah, we want authenticity.
And also, I don't want to build something that I feel like is easily amendable by someone. Like, I honestly believe that I'm here on this earth to build and create something that is going to be misunderstood until I present it in a way that it can be received and understood by the world. And I think that is my gift. But I think that's everyone's gift.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
show me you and teach me how to love that. Teach me how to understand that perspective. Open the world up to what that is. Otherwise, we're striving to be the best version of someone else and silencing the best version of us,
Yes.
And
then that's why we have of us. No, not half of us. Majority of us are struggling tremendously on an emotional level, behind the scenes. Back to what you said about suppressing. There's so many things that we do to suppress the feelings that we're having, whether it be cute little alcohol drinks, cocktails, little weed or drugs or eating or sex or there's a lot of things that if we pay attention, we do them or we crave them when we're a little bit unsettled with the moment of what's happening. And sitting in those moments allow you to just really get to know yourself. And it's just, it's one of the scariest things because we're not taught really to do that. But it's the way that we can get to a place of longevity, long term. We think about long term in the decisions that you want to make. And like those patterns, and I have nothing to add. That was so profound. We're just over here clicking,
girl, like, because you're speaking my language. It's so true,
for sure.
And I resonate with all those things that you mentioned. And in hindsight, I see that they were all a method of suppression. And I'm grateful to see it now, because when they show up now, I'm like,
because it's not judgment.
Why am
I
doing this so much? And it's what I love that you said. It's not judgment. It's
not
like
judgment.
Growing with grace.
Exactly. It's like I'm speaking this stuff because I've acknowledged it in myself. What I have done, what I still do, but I'm at a place where I can admit that I know what I'm doing. I'm not lying to myself anymore. Like, girl, you know you're doing that because you're feeling a little stressed or you're feeling this. And like, I just at the point where I no longer want to use those external things to be
cope.
okay.
Yeah.
To be okay.
That's so big.
So, but that's just me because, I get a little deep.
No, I feel that, girl. No, I resonate with that completely because same.
Yeah.
And I love that you said like that you're mentioning it because you're in it now.
Yeah.
And that you're no longer like lying to yourself because that is another form of suppression. It's just another layer of like, okay, I'm going to lie to myself and be numb, or I'm going to face the facts, but I'm not totally there yet to change what I am, what I know I can change. I think in that moment is the moment of the biggest grace that you give yourself.
Yes.
When you know better, but it's in between knowing better and doing better and having to commit to that process, because I've done this pattern for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So there's no way that it can happen overnight, but I know that she can be better. I'm just going to give her the space to, to wiggle through it,
give
to
her
get
some
through
wiggle
it,
room.
to maybe backslide and then come back stronger.
Backslide.
But I'm with you, girl.
Backsliding is a part of the process. Let's just be clear.
Please.
Let's just be clear.
It's like, where's our cameras?
Yeah.
It is. It will happen.
It will happen.
And I would hope that you would give yourself the grace enough to say like, I see you, girl. Because you only backslid because you tried.
Yes.
And the trying is what I'm going to honor. So we're going to try again.
Yes.
Let's continue to
even
try
when
again.
I went to my chiropractor, he was telling me that that's even the healing process of the bones. It's like the healing process is not straight up. It's and then finally you start going straight up.
Yeah.
So if your bones do that innately, then just know that it's okay.
Just know you're normal
to backslide.
Like, we're normal.
Okay,
here.
I'm running out of time. In the workplace,
Yes.
do you have triggers in the workplace?
Yes.
Okay, I want to know about. Do you have? What are a couple of your triggers, or one of your triggers that I guess is when I think of triggers, it's just things that take me out of alignment of where I am, what I've been focused on doing, where I am. Maybe I'm in a really good, positive space, and then there's a trigger that happens that kind of shakes that alignment.
Yeah.
Do you experience that in the workplace, just being around so many different people, or things that are stereotypical in the workplace, or things like that?
That's an interesting question. I would say the triggers that I experience are like how people deal with conflict resolution.
Okay.
Is super big for me, and it helped me to learn about my attachment style and what that looks like and how I face conflict or the lack thereof. So I think when I notice like passive aggressiveness, that triggers me.
It does.
Because I think like growing up and just in my life, it was always difficult for me to verbalize my emotions, but I could cry them out. That was so easy until I learned how to speak my emotions, and so then I felt empowered to do so.
Yeah.
And I think when I see like passive aggressiveness, I realize that there's no trust there. There's no trust that you can tell me how you feel and that I will honor it. And then it makes me feel like there's someone in your life that never trusted you, or that never let you honor how you really felt in the moment, whether it was like anger or disappointment. So those are some things that trigger me, because I'm dang, like, we probably can't resolve this right now because this is not therapy.
Right.
So I probably can't teach you that lesson.
Yeah.
So I have to like kind of deal with how you work and then adjust the way I work and the way I live ultimately. And it just brings me discomfort, honestly, like passive aggressiveness, gossiping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I came here to do the real work.
To do the work.
To do impact.
With
like
good energy.
You know?
Yeah.
And with intention.
Yeah.
You know? And why not like create a safe space that is open for you to grow? It's a professional environment where I think you're not only growing professionally, me learning about my attachment styles in love in comparison to me learning about my attachment styles in conflict in the workplace were synonymous. They were one and the same.
That was interesting that you brought up your attachment style, but it kind of just goes through all relationships.
Yeah, exactly. It's so hand in hand, but I think like not having the space or trust to do that makes me feel really uncomfortable. That's why I'm grateful for some of the teams that I've worked on, where we're able to say like, we're in this with the same goal, okay? We're all here, same goal, okay? Just do the work, do it well, do your best, but also give each other the respect to communicate how you really feel, so no one is like walking on eggshells and tiptoeing, because it's like when I see that, it's like, oh, are you doing that in your other life too? Like, are you doing that in your 5 to whatever? Like during your 9 to 5, this is what you do. I would hope that's not how you feel, and then it makes me want to go deeper with that person, and I'm like, I can't do that right now.
This is an interesting question, but I'm just wondering, do you feel the need to like code switch at work? Like, okay, it's BT, but do you feel the need to be, you can't be like, or you have to be like, okay, this is like, do you do that? Okay.
I mean, it's not, I don't think it's like a big code switch, but
it's just,
I
you
work
like to
with
set the tone.
Executives.
Okay.
It's very different than the brand creative team that will work on creative projects. Of course, they're very professional, but they're also able to be super creative and like open with their expressions.
Got it.
I work with executives and a lot of leading partners of different companies. So I definitely sometimes can't be like, yo, what up? I'm from Brooklyn. What's good? Like, I got to keep it cute. You know, I can't. But I think like, that's natural, but I don't like the code switching where it's like you're a whole different person. Please.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Because I want you to feel like you can be you, because ultimately, like, I don't want to work in a space where and this is me personally, I don't want to work in a space where I have to dim myself down to uncomfortability. Like, I'd rather be in a space where you gradually learn me and you learn about me, so you understand why I am the way I am. Like, if I have a Caribbean coworker, of course I'm going to talk in patois to you every once in a while. Or someone who also does music, I might say good morning as opposed to like good morning. It just depends, and I want you to feel more like you in every space. So I feel like maybe that's why I try to bring a little like, girl, take that barrier down. Be you. Like, if this is what you love outside of work, you like to do pickleball, that's not my cup of tea, but love that for you. Like, be you for real. Be for real.
I love that.
Be for real. But I don't know, it throws me off because I'm like, this is not the same. But you know what? It's an Achilles heel, because some people say that when they meet me, they expect something different, or they expect a more like stern and like, I think it might be the mogul. And I'm like, child, I'm talking about the messy mogul, the in the making. Like, I'm talking about that part. This part is all of me. All of me, always.
I'm so
anytime.
Because you brought your full self here today. And I'm so honored. Like,
Girl, I'm grateful that y'all created this safe space. I had to, you know.
Feel safe? Okay, good.
It's safe. I had to do my research, because I think you should always, like, before you say yes to anything, think about if it'll honor the truest form of you. And that's why I didn't ask for any questions, because I was like, I see what you're building through authenticity and through intention. And I honor that you are being you, and you are finding out all the reasons why it's important to have this community. And so you took your step with your team who believed in this vision to do so. And I wanted to honor you by showing up as my full self, to show you that I believe in this. And like, I want this to continue to skyrocket as it is, like Godspeed. But also, it's important to have women affirming women as they are in whatever stage they are in life, because like, I love you today, tomorrow, and the next day as you are. And I think that this is what that space brings. It brings like, you got it, girl.
Joy, are we crying?
I got you, girl. Forever and ever, in every stage. And I love that, because I value that in everyone that I meet. I'll meet you, you know, as the intern, and know that you'll be the CEO of Rock Nation one day. Please. I knew that. And so I treated you as such. And I think the mogul in me speaks to the mogul in you, and vice versa. And I rock with that all the way.
I love
but
that.
Thank you for creating this space, girl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I love y'all.
I want you to leave here with, what are 2 tips for women in business or in entrepreneurship, something that has helped shape you and allowed you to show up how you show up? Leave the ladies with something.
Wow.
I mean, something more, because you've already done so much, but just something that is, you know, that just like rings true, that they can just like remember for themselves. And take your time. We can clip out all the extra.
Okay, bet. Please, I gotta catch my breath.
We can clip out all the extra.
Just to say, I have been dealing with an allergic reaction to a dog right now. I'm allergic to a dog, and I was with my friend with the dog, and I was like wheezing before I got here, and I was like,
"Are you seem
I'm
okay?
I'm okay, but it's like it's more difficult to breathe." But I'm like, hold on, am I talking? Are we talking? I'm like, I'm having a great time. I'm not nervous. Like I'm feeling the vibes, but I'm like, whew, because of like
girl.
that, you know.
Yeah.
But
I'm allergic to cats, not dogs.
I was like,
That's so funny.
okay, let me get back into mode. Speaking of code switch.
You're totally fine.
Yeah, I do. So I would say two things that ring true for any woman entrepreneur in general is to always be in the business of integrity. Whatever it is that is most true to who you are and your morals and your values and the things that you care about and you're passionate about, seek those things at all costs. And secondly, always be in the business of pivoting. I don't care what is happening. I'm lying. I do care a lot. But I don't care about the wait in between of the pivot.
Okay.
I want you to choose to pivot. I want you to dare to believe in yourself enough to know that no matter the circumstance and what happens, that pivot will always serve you because you're able and capable. You're enough. You're worthy. You're worthy of shifting. And you're capable of shifting the tone at any point.
Yeah.
Because the gift is in you. It's never on you.
Yeah.
It's in. And it's always going to be within.
I love that.
Always.
That's beautiful. That's
yes.
a word because
Those are
we
mine.
can kind of get stuck. Thank you so much. I want to look at there and tell the people where they can find you.
Yes. So it's your girl, EK The Mogul, and I just had the best time with Kayla on Women of TmrO. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Erica Knox, ERICA, KNOX, or EK The Mogul. And be sure to follow my community, Made the Cut Collective, exclusive for moguls in the making, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Yay! That was it. See you guys next time.